Hello everybody, Richard the Dick Coughlin 666. How are you? You know, people say YouTube is not interesting anymore. It's not fun, no more drama, nothing. It's just, it's all boring now. Well, it might get a bit more interesting. In fact, if you want to have an interesting time these days on the internet, it doesn't happen on YouTube anymore. It seems to happen on Blog TV. And something interesting happened today on Blog TV that I want to share with you, because it's a very interesting story. And it's regarding a user who we all know and love, called Thunderfoot. Earlier on, I was in a Blog TV on a Skype call with Riff Randell, also known as Physical Conservative, and all of a sudden we get told that by Red Fist of Europe that he wants to bring Thunderfoot into the discussion. At this point, my fucking computer decides to freeze and crash, and I fall out the bloody room. I get back in there. And anyway, the conversation has been going on with a user who I'm going to link down there, who you should all subscribe to. His name is D-Land & Cole. He is possibly the smartest and one of the most intellectual guys on YouTube I've seen when it comes to politics. Go and subscribe to him. But he's having a conversation with Thunderfoot. He's basically, to put it lightly, handing Thunderfoot's arse to him on a platter. I finally get into the conversation, and I'm sat there silently for a while. And Thunderfoot brings up the subject of blasphemy laws in the Middle East, because he was talking about certain blasphemy about Islam and the differences between it. And I mentioned that there are blasphemy laws in the UK, and so I decided to.
Yes,
well, I'll play you the recording of exactly what happened. This is a recording.
This is the question you're talking about blasphemy laws, whether they were enforced or not. The fact is, there's a mix.
Across London Bridge during the day, just because the law
These
exists.
blasphemy laws were only reintroduced into Ireland a couple of years ago. And to say that they haven't been enforced, well, I'll give you an example of how they have been enforced, because I do stand-up comedy. A few friends of mine who do comedy shows, but particularly based in religion, have been banned from touring their shows in Ireland because of that. Yes, okay, the punishment is not being killed or whatever, but the fact is they have been enforced to an extent that inhibits on what people can hear and what people can say, and that's still and it's not enforced. I've never personally been arrested, because obviously it depends on people having or on people hearing you. But if there's a public way of publicly displaying it, like for example you have a show or a concert, or there's a TV show that has this, then you have the UK law, the blasphemy laws in UK and Ireland have restricted that in many ways. That's an example there.
So there are no effective blasphemy laws.
Well, no, I've given you examples of when you say effective, I mean effective is in what sense? I mean if you're saying that someone
was executed for blasphemy.
Oh, so it's about executing now, it's not about the law. Because blasphemy, I mean, is a punishment not a punishment for the sake of a punishment? I mean, is it okay to punish people for blasphemy as long as they're not being killed? Is that what you're saying? It's okay to punish someone for blasphemy if they're just being censored and not allowed to do their comedy show? Is that okay? Are you okay with that then? Because there are worse forms of punishment for blasphemy. Because, that would seem to be... I'm personally... I agree with you that blasphemy is a completely... irrelevant thing to have legislation for, but the fact is in this country and in Ireland we do have legislation for it, and it has restricted people's freedom of speech. Yes, no one's been killed for it, but that's not really compensation.
I think, or disconnected or something.
Sorry, what happened?
I think Thunderfoot hung up, or disconnected, one of the two. Oh, there he is. All right. I think he lost connection. I think he lost connection.
I hear a ringing noise. I called him up again.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe his boss called him. After all, we did call him at work.
Oh, you...
Well,
that's why I told you you should... That's why I was kind of annoyed we just sprung this out of nowhere.
Yeah. It would have been nice if you'd given us a warning.
like a 15, 20-minute warning would have been nice.
I wouldn't have thought that if he's...
What was wrong with your Skype?
Well, it doesn't matter, mate. I mean, it would have been nice. I don't mind having these conversations, but
Yeah.
give us some advance warning, because we were just sat here and saying
Yeah.
this.
What happened just there was I brought up the fact that Thunderfoot had gone on about blasphemy laws. I mentioned there were blasphemy laws in the UK. Thunderfoot then says, "Well, yeah. When was the last time they were made effective? When was the last time these blasphemy laws were were effectively used?" Which is kind of weird, because the fact blasphemy laws still exist, and so they can be used. But I brought up examples of censorship in certain areas, and people who have artistically or in one way or another have been denied their freedom of speech, and people have been denied the right to hear other people's opinions on issues because it violated blasphemy laws. Thunderfoot then says, "Well, when was the last time someone was executed for it?" And I pointed out, well, no one's been executed for it, obviously, in this country, but they're still denied freedom of speech. You'd think a guy that would be enough. But you see what he did there? We don't have they have blasphemy laws in the Middle East, well, we have them in the UK. Yeah, but when was the last time they were enacted? Well, they were enacted here. Yeah, when was the last time someone was enacted? Thunderfoot, this is called moving the goalposts. You might remember this tactic in your debates with Venom Fang X. Now, I'd like to play you the rest of the audio as to what happened afterwards, but I can't. Do you know why? Because Thunderfoot hung up. And he hung up, and not only did he hang up, but he also sent a message on Skype to Red Fist of Europe. I'm going to show you a screenshot of the message he sent. Happy to talk, just not with childish emo whore there. Now, you're right, Thunderfoot, I am a childish emo whore. That's a fair comment. But he wasn't willing to talk because I was there. Now, you heard the recording. I didn't say anything. I wasn't rude, and I didn't say anything that wasn't factually true. And Thunderfoot went off and hung up because I asked him that question. He also, earlier on in the conversation, which has been recorded by other people, actually advocated to restricting people's freedom of speech, similar to the Tom Tancredo bill we were talking about earlier. You call yourself an advocate of freedom of speech? You want to drag religion out of the Dark Ages and into the Age of Reason, and you're going to do this by restricting their Age of Reason rights? Mr. Advocate of freedom of speech? My arse. Right? And you call me a childish emo whore, but you don't want to talk to me because of that. No, but you will make 10 dozen videos on Venom Fang X, won't you, Thunderfoot? No, you will make how many videos to Nevilim free? You'll spend how many hours did you spend debating a kid who's borderline retarded on evolution of pine cones? But when it comes to actually talking to someone who's got a bit of competence about them, you bottle it and run away. Can I quote you now and refer to you in the way that you did to Viacom when they DMCA'd you? Thunderfoot, you gutless coward. Richard the Dick Coughlin, 666. Good night, may God be less.